Welcome to the Coaching Show. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Susan Padilla Murray. Hey, Susan.
Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Good, good. I was lucky enough to have Susan on my radio show, and I had no idea why, because I co-hosted with Bernie Siegel, and he was, you got to meet this woman, you got to have her on the show, she's great, and you were great. And
Thank you.
And he says, she has a book, and I just can't put it down. So I'm going to show you the book. It has complete with my bookmarker because I'm in the middle of it, and it's Losing Everything: A Family's Journey with Alzheimer's Disease. And Susan is the author, and the person with Alzheimer's is her mother. So what inspired this book?
The book came about really as a journal because my mom started misbehaving, I could use that term. She started behaving really funny for a couple of years, and I was trying to figure out if something is going on with her and she will get better, she needs to know what's been going on, because she would say things and then tell you she didn't say certain things.
You were keeping memories for your mother?
I was.
Oh my goodness.
Because she was always so nice and sweet, so I figured, here's this person now who she changed really dramatically. And I said, whenever she comes out of whatever she's in, she will see how things were when she was in whatever stage she was in.
And we'll laugh about it.
Yeah, she would have a good chuckle because she was really nice. And so that's how I began the book, just jotting little things down. But as things progressed and she didn't change, I started writing more because I needed to process how I was feeling. Because it was really difficult for me to see this person that I knew so well, at least that's what I thought, go through these changes. So basically I just kept writing and writing and writing. So that's how it started.
So what kind of therapy did writing give you? It's because I had someone on the show recently who wrote a book, Writing for Bliss. It's just, and she has all these ideas about what writing does and how it's an escape. And
it is. Yeah. Well, my philosophy is, and I say this to my husband all the time, if I didn't write the book, I would be in serious care. Maybe someplace in a mental institution.
Maybe sharing rooms.
You never know. What I found is that writing helped me process certain things, because going back to what I said, how she was so nice, and then she changed into this person that we didn't know. So writing helped me sort of like, okay, if this happened today and this happened another day, I just kind of like put it together and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is perhaps the answer to what I didn't know the day before. And for me, it became something, instead of going to the psychiatrist and talking to him or her a few times a week, all of my thoughts and my feelings I put down in writing. So it helped me really process a lot of the things that was going on with my mom.
And you call it a journey.
Yes.
Let me just say that this show is based on, for those of you who watch, the marvelous Points of View, the coaching game. And one of the cards is Journey, which in this case is so appropriate because there are older hands. And I remember we were using this card for something else and we're going, well, we wonder, what are the hands about? And I think you and your book have displayed perfectly what these older hands are about. So Journey, that's a kind way to say it, right?
I think for some people, and in my mom's family, she's one of 12 children. And she was fourth in line, and her brother just behind her also had Alzheimer's. And he got it, and within four and a half years, he was gone. And for her, it's a process, and we're walking through all these different phases with her. Because initially, when she was in her, I would assume her mid-60s, that's when things started happening to her. And she went from one stage to the next, and I figure, for the book, because we've gone from her being this lovely individual to her being a totally different person, it's a journey just not for her, but for us also.
Oh, definitely.
Because I've watched a person that I've known all my life go from who she was to this person that I really don't know at all. So for her, it's a journey into something that she doesn't know anymore. But for me, it's a journey into trying to process and understand exactly what's going on with her. And when I can't understand it, I put stuff down in writing and I try to figure it out.
What lessons have you and I know you're still learning.
Yes.
And I know that's why thus the name Journey. But what lessons have you learned for yourself? I mean, I'm sure there are many lessons which medication works on what for your mother, and you know, who responds best to her, etc. But what lessons have you learned for yourself and for your family?
When we found out that she was really sick, what I did, I went and I started taking classes to become a nutritionist, because no one could tell me that she wasn't going to get better, because in my mind I knew I could get her better. So for about 18 months I took classes and I became a certified nutritionist. And in the book I said at the end of the class, when I said to my teacher, I said to her, you know, my mom is losing her memory, what can I do? And she said, nothing. I really didn't believe her. Because here we are, you know, live in this modern society, we have all these things, we have
a pill
drugs
for everything.
Oh yeah, there's a pill for stuff, there's, you know, some alternative medicine for something. So when she told me we could do nothing, I'm like, that's not true. I said, I'm determined that I would do something. And part of that something was, you know, trying alternative things with her. And the process of working with her and not finding solutions, I think for me became something that I really could not accept initially, because in our family there are 4 of us, and even though I'm not the first child or the last child, I always took the lead on everything, because my mom was a single parent for most of our lives, and together we always figured things out, and I figured, you know, I'm gonna fix this. So for me, it was a process of learning and moving on and trying to figure out, well, you know, is this going to be the way people say it is, which is there's no solution for it. And even today, I still try to think, you know, maybe somewhere along the line there's something to come, but it's no.
That's so interesting. You know, I've been a caretaker a few times and hated it each time, but was also honored to be able to do it. What are your feelings about hope? Because, right? I mean, people hold that up, oh, you got to have hope. And it's like, I don't know.
For me, and I don't know if it's the same for my husband, I lost hope where my mom is concerned a while ago. And in the book, I go into why I lost hope, because life is a process, and there's always supposedly a solution for everything. But when it came to her, and after we found out that she was really sick, there is really no hope at all. And I'm very religious, and it became really difficult for me, because it was trying to reconcile, now here's this person who's lived a certain way, and supposedly if you do good,
the good life, she was a very religious person.
Yes, and if you do good, supposedly good will happen to you. And in her case, it didn't and it wouldn't. And for me, that became really difficult. And I named our latest pets. We have 2 cats, and I named my latest pet Hope. So that is my way of saying that perhaps, you know, if I don't have it myself, here is
I have a cat.
I have a cat that every day when I call her, you know, it goes in the back of the brain, perhaps. But in her case and in my case, it's really difficult, because, as I said before, you know, it's really hard to reconcile how certain things will not happen, because I had plans for her. I had plans for myself, and my plans and her plans and my husband's plans have gone awry, because now we can only think about what's best for her and how we're going to make her comfortable. So it's hard. It's really difficult.
I'm still wrestling with that. I'm not sure if hope is an asset or a detriment. Does it make you not face reality, or does it help you face reality? And
well,
I'm
I think
sure
in
greater
her,
people than you and I have tried to figure this out. But
in her case, it's made me face reality, because when I got to the point where I knew there was absolutely nothing I could do to make her better, it was just like, no. And for other people, I'm hoping that, if I could use the term hoping, that eventually, you know, something or someone will discover something, because this is a journey that I will not wish on anyone, no matter who they are, because it's a very difficult journey.
Right, for everybody.
Everybody. It's just not the person and the family involved. It's like everything around them, everybody that they knew, people, you know, people in our church, people who we grew up with. I mean, everyone it takes in, just the whole thing comes.
What did you replace hope with?
Sometimes I think desperation. Yes.
Determination, desperation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, part of what we were talking last week, because we had a family reunion in Mexico, and we had a family member that got married, and I hadn't seen people for like maybe 30-something years. And we were talking, and I said, you know, the only thing I can take from this is that perhaps my mom got sick, and now her 4 children and people who are left in her family, there's certain things we can do, because now science is saying if you keep busy, if you keep active, if you keep all of these things, and anything they say, I try, because I don't want to go down the road that she went down. So we were talking about, you know, how perhaps we can do things to not maybe get rid of the disease, but push it past our lifetime.
Right.
Just move it into the future.
Yeah.
So if we live long enough, that, you know, we won't get it. And I don't know, because my family, they live forever. I mean, they're in the 80s and their 90s. My grandmother on my mom's side died when she was like 93. My grandfather died very quickly at 82. So we have a little journey to go and a little way to go. So part of what we were talking about is, you know, just see how far we can push it.
That's another thing that I'm sure must be on top of your head sometimes. It's
all
like,
the time.
What about me? Because I know my father died when I was 10, and he had 5 heart attacks, and he died at 41. So I figure anything after 41, which I made obviously, is crazy. You know, it's like, okay, I made it. You know, and things have gotten better, of course, then. But it's on the back of your head. You know,
all the time. I wouldn't even say it's in the back of the brain. It's right in the front. Everything.
Oh, really?
Any little thing that happens, you go like, oh my God.
Yeah. Where are my keys? What?
Did I forget
happening?
this? And if my husband says, well, you know, remember such and such, and you did such and such, I'm like, So it's always there, and you're thinking, well, but in the back of my head, and every day when I pray, I said, this is not going to happen to me. It's just not going to happen. So.
Yeah. The beauty of the disease is that you won't know.
No.
but it's like not
I'm doing some self-hypnosis.
Right. It's like,
this is not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. We're going to let that one pass.
Yes.
So the book came out, and what kind of response are you getting from it? Because you can have mine. It's fantastic. But
I've had, it's on Amazon, but it's not selling as much as I want it to, or if it is, I don't know, because they don't calculate their numbers on a monthly basis. They do it maybe every quarter or every 6 months. But everyone who's read the book thus far has said how, you know, it's really touching, and it's very nice of me to put myself out there, because I didn't leave anything off the table when I wrote. Because
no, you did not.
Because if I'm going to tell a story, and I have a friend of mine who said, you know, you have to tell the truth, and you have to be honest, and you have to tell everything. So in the book, I've just basically said how I felt. I said, you know, what was going on, how and why, and I didn't leave anything out. The good, the bad, and the ugly is in the book. I can testify to that. It's and I will tell you that when Susan gave me the book, she goes, I won't tell you to enjoy it, but I'll tell you to do it slowly. And I go, oh no, Bernie said he couldn't put the pages down, but I had to do it slowly, because it is, you're exhausted. You're exhausted because it's a roller coaster of emotions, first of all, and it's like, and it's hope continually being dashed, which makes me so angry, you know. But I'm going to tell you that why would anybody recommend this book? Because it also has some very amusing things in it. It has some inspiration. It's like, okay, we're going to get through this no matter how crazy. You know, we may have I don't know, clothes hanging all over the living room, but we're going to get through this. It's okay. So I would highly recommend it to families that are going through this, not necessarily the people, because probably they wouldn't be able to get through it anyway. But I think for families or anyone who is dealing with people who are maybe even dementia, you know, and I never really, do you know the definition or the distinction between Alzheimer's and dementia? Well, I don't. Well, what I've been told, and I don't know because I don't know anyone with dementia, what I've been told is that people with dementia, they have a tendency to forget things. So they may forget that they turned the stove on, or they forget their keys, or maybe they forgot to have breakfast. But people with Alzheimer's, it's a progression of forgetting everything. Because initially, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, my mother still remembered who I am, or to her was. Currently, she doesn't remember anything. She knows no one whatsoever. And with dementia, I don't think you lose the ability to speak. She's now losing the ability to speak, because certain things she can't say anymore, and she'll garble things or not say things. And with dementia, I think, you know, those things do not happen. You just start forgetting little things. And I was talking to someone this morning, and he said his mom has dementia. And I said to him, does she remember you? He said, when I go, she remembers me. But my mom, I go, no, it's gone. You
used an analogy of, like, I believe you said it's like a worm eating up a brain. And it's just, you know, every day it's the worm gets bigger, and it's like, what's going on there?
It's like something just slid under. And it went in, and it just took over.
Life lessons are abundant in here, and you'll see some in the book. But one of the quotes that comes with the journey card is, well, the lights are killing my eyes, sorry. Anything is one of a million paths. Therefore, one must always keep in mind that a path is only a path. Here's a question that one must ask. Does this path have a heart? A path without a heart has no advantage. Your path has big heart. It's like big heart. At some point, and I got frustrated with you. It's like, well, why don't you put her on medication, or why don't you put her in a place that specializes in? What makes you not do that? What makes you hang true?
Well, as I said before, you know, initially I thought I could fix her if I could use the word fix. There was no one who could tell me that she couldn't get better, because growing up with her, because she was a single parent, she said, you know, whatever you put your mind to do, you can do it. So I grew up with that kind of like a dogged, you know, no matter what happens, you go until you get to the end. And because of my belief that, you know, in the US it's just too much medication, I figured that, you know, from a layman's perspective and from a holistic expectation, I could fix her. So that went on for a while, and it got to the point where the caregiver said to me one day, you know, I can't take care of her anymore. If you don't put her on something, I cannot take care of her, because I can't sleep. She won't let me do anything. Every night there's a huge fight for hours on end. So finally...
Is that Mrs. Muffin?
Yes, Miss Muffin.
She needs a shout out, this woman. Is she still with her?
She's still with her. She's been with her.
Miss Muffin, hang in there. Good for you.
She's been with her now about over 7 years.
Wow.
And she is...
a godsend, literally.
If it weren't for her, I'm not sure what we would do. So it's not that I didn't want her to be in a better place. I just wanted her not to be so drugged up like you see people in a nursing home. But eventually, when I thought she would kill someone, I eventually said, you know, I had to do something. So we took her to the hospital, and they put her in the psych ward for a week. And they were trying like different medications on her and everything else. And she still remembered who I was at that point. And she would tell me that every night, you know, she would still want to go home and do certain things. And part of me not putting her in a home is, here's this person who her entire life she devoted to take care of these 4 kids. And for me, I think it would break my heart if I had to put her away. I'm not saying that I would never do it, because it's a financial burden, but for as long as I can do it, I will keep her at home. Because if I turn her, as my sister said, you know, if I turn her over to the state, because if I don't have the money anymore, I will have to turn her over to the state, then whatever would happen to her, I will have no control over anymore. And even though I don't have control of her per se, I still want to have control over what will happen to her. So until the time comes, I'm hoping that it doesn't, fingers crossed, maybe behind the back, that I would be able to keep her at home. And I think on the radio show I mentioned to you that I'm biracial, and in the Indian culture, which my father's family, they're Indian, we don't put family away.
It doesn't happen.
And in the Hispanic culture, which is my mom, we really don't put people away either.
One of my husbands, I've been widowed twice, so one of my husbands was from India, and he was always amazed when he would see homeless people on the street in America.
No.
Where are their family? And I go, I don't know. It's like, it just doesn't happen in India. No. So,
culturally, you keep your parents.
And the older, the more a treasure.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and being older is value to the family because they have all the wisdom, they have all that knowledge, and they pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah,
so we keep them.
What are you going to pass on? I know you have co-nieces and stuff like that.
I'm hoping that I would pass on patience.
I think you've got it, but okay.
I'm hoping.
I don't know if you have any to spare, but I think you definitely have patience.
I'm hoping that I can show my nieces and my nephew that even though you get a hard road in life, that you can travel that road, and you can travel the road with grace and patience and kindness, because it's easy to not be those things.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially especially I think when you're dealing with someone that you know and love, and then you watch them disappear. Yeah, there they are, and still needing care. But I love your point, because it's like, yes, we were taking care of his children, and I was talking to your husband, and we were saying that people are getting older and older, and the roles are reversing. We are now taking care of our parents to the point where we change diapers, and we feed them, and we do things that they did for us, and made our lives possible. So it's it's a conundrum. It's like, I don't know what's good, I don't know what's bad. I think the heart thing, though, I think you have to be true to your heart.
Yes.
And there are some people who go, you know what, I'm going to punch this lady if I don't put her in a home. And there are people like you who are like, no, I'm going to see this through to the end. I think you have to follow your heart.
Yes. Yeah. Well, talking about the punching in the book, twice.
Well, maybe literally. I don't know.
Twice. I thought about it. In all the years she's been sick twice, I thought I would have to hit her.
That's a pretty good record.
Just twice.
That's not bad, really.
But,
because in my geriatric care business, I thought about punching them alive. Like, oh, come on.
But again, it's how you when someone is like my mom, you really have to pace yourself. Because you have to wake up every morning and say, okay, today we're going to do this, this, and this, and you can't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Oh, beautiful lesson.
Yeah, you can't.
Beautiful lesson.
You can't. It has to be in the moment, the day of, and everything else. Because if you worry about the future, in the sense that, well, what will happen tomorrow with her, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
I would think even if you had a rigid schedule for the day, it's like, oh, maybe not.
No, because, if something happens to her, everything changes. So there's nothing in stone. There was a time a few years ago when she went to daycare every day because she could. But 2 years ago, she couldn't anymore because certain things happened to her and we couldn't take her there anymore. So even when she went to daycare, if something happened at the daycare and they'll call and say, you have to come and get her, the caregiver has to get in the car, drive, go get her. So again, plans are something, it's not written down because it's flexible and it's whatever comes.
So patience, flexibility.
Yes.
We're learning all the things.
Kindness.
Kindness. Definitely.
Oh,
Definitely. And I think for the most part you go, there the grace of God goes, any of us. But there are times when it's tested, I'm sure. Yeah. How do you deal with, or do you not even care, how do you deal with other people's reactions to your mother?
For me, and this doesn't sound nice, but I really don't care what people think.
No, it sounds beautiful. It would be something that I would attempt to attain, in my own mindset. It's like, what?
Because
walk in my shoes and then we'll talk.
Well, I'll give you for instance. Now, because she's so far gone with the disease, we don't fight with her to change her clothes anymore. So if we're going to take her for a ride in the car, she goes in her nightgown and house slippers, and the neighbors look at us like, what's wrong with these people? But why would I want to fight with her for 20 minutes to put on clothes when I know it's going to upset her and upset me? So we just go with the flow. She goes outside when she can, and we go to the pond sometimes and we sit down, and she's there in her nightgown, and people walk by and look, and I'm like, I don't care. Let them think whatever they want to think.
I think that's admirable, actually. Yeah. So what do you want to tell people? What do you want to tell people about this?
I want to tell people that this is difficult. This is one of the hardest things that you would ever have to do. Even if you put your parent and or your loved one in a nursing home, you still have to go, you still have to take care of them, you have to make sure everything goes well. And you have to take this journey, as I said before, one day at a time. Because if you don't, and you don't take care of yourself, and you don't surround yourself with the right people, you're going to drown. And
good support group.
Yeah.
So we got patience, kindness, flexibility, and support.
Yes.
Great.
You have to have people supporting you, and I'm really grateful that I have a really good husband, and he's extremely supportive. He does what he needs to do. Sometimes he does things that I wouldn't even do, and to have someone who would think things through, because sometimes with my mom, you have to get to a decision so quickly that you forget certain things, and with him, it's always nice and thought through, and it's like, okay, we can do this, and if you don't support yourself, then you're in trouble.
I learned that the first time around. It was like, I said, okay, you can be sick later, just wait. And as soon as the caregiving was over, I took a year to recover, and it was like, what the heck is that? And you've got to take care of yourself. It's the oxygen mask. You've got to put it on first, so then you can help other people. Yeah,
it's like on the plane.
Exactly. Yeah,
they always give you
what they tell you. To put it on first.
And
again, you take care of your kids. So yeah.
And I think a lot of people also join support groups. Some people don't do that. I haven't, but I have friends whose spouses and or parents had Alzheimer's disease, so we talk about it. I have several friends. I have a friend upstate New York, and her dad is going through something very similar as my mom. And we talk all the time, and she says, I don't understand how certain things can happen, and I say to her, these are the things to expect. So depending on where you are in the disease, I have a friend of mine, her husband died already, so we talk about certain things, and she joined a support group because she said she needed to vent because it was a long process for him, and she was married to him very young, and she took care of him for, I think, 8 or 9 years. Wow. And what she expected out of the marriage never quite happened. So again, you surround yourself with people who understand you and who understand what you're going through, so this way, kind of like the hospital, we're all sick together, but we're moving along to get better.
The paths are a million, as Points of View said. I would say, and I thank you so much for sharing your path. I would highly recommend this to so many people. Just out of the writing is superb, and the honesty is wonderful, but also the journey is fascinating. So thank you, Susan, so much for sharing this.
Thank you.